Welcome to America Rising Media, where it is our mission to spread truth, expose evil, and effect as much positive change and unity as possible. Please join us in the chat and let us know your thoughts. Please note that the views and opinions expressed by guests and audience members are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of America Rising Media. We encourage you to critically evaluate all perspectives presented during our podcast. We appreciate your understanding and support, and thank you for being part of our community.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. made one of the most remarkable statements of the past week at the CPAC conference.
I think Donald Trump understands the use of power better than probably any president that we've had, at least since Roosevelt and maybe in American history. I think my father and my uncle would support. I think that if they were around today, they would be making the same kind of choice that President Trump is about Iran, about Ukraine, about trying to raise up the middle class.
He also pointed out that he was raised in a Democratic Party that was very opposed to NAFTA. But the moment Trump came out against it, the Democrats flipped and supported free trade. Those two statements tell you more about what is really going on in the world than endless hours of media coverage or doom scrolling. The media is lost in the fog of war and politics. Take The Economist. They're telling you that Iran has the advantage and a month of bombing has accomplished nothing. Or the mainstream press, which is telling you that the No King's Day rallies featuring adults who dressed up as frogs and featuring drag queens represent the political mood of the nation. RFK's remarks cut through all of that. The binary choices of left versus right, war versus anti-war are being shattered as Donald Trump reasserts real American policies and liberates us from the strategic and economic straitjacket imposed since the end of World War II. These aren't new ideas. They are the oldest American ideas, suppressed and now coming back. I'm Susan Kokinda. I remember Kennedy's uncle and father. I was on the ground in California campaigning for Robert F. Kennedy Sr. when he was shot. And like his son, I've spent more than 5 decades fighting for the opportunity that Donald Trump has given us to bring those principles back to life. So if you have a sense that something very big is happening, that the world is being rearranged in ways the media can't explain, then hit those like, share, and subscribe buttons, stay in touch, and help us expand our reach. Here's what we're covering today. First, the Iran conflict and how it represents a complete break with 6 decades of imperial foreign policy. Second, the significance of J.D. Vance in the negotiations. And third, how Scott Bessent and Peter Navarro are defining the battle by name. That is, the American system versus the British system. So let's start with who is no longer in the room and why that changes everything. This week, the empire's own institutions confirmed it. Chatham House, the British foreign policy flagship think tank, published a piece with a headline that could have come from this channel. Britain's handling of the Iran war shows the limits of UK power. Chatham House also announced that the House of Lords International Relations and Defense Committee will come to Chatham House, where they will discuss the question of what they now call the not-so-special relationship and whether it can survive Trump 2.0. The empire is writing its own autopsy, and the conservative treehouse gave it the headline it deserved. British Defense Minister outlines how the UK Navy will defend the West as soon as they locate their ships. With those tools of the great game sidelined, watch what is actually happening. Right now in Islamabad, the foreign ministers of Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Egypt are sitting together for the purpose of opening up a dialogue between the United States and Iran, not managing the conflict, ending it. Britain is not in that room, neither is the EU or NATO. And when Pakistan's foreign minister announced that Iran had agreed to allow 20 more Pakistani flagged ships through the Strait of Hormuz, he addressed his statement on X directly to J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Steve Witkoff. Not London, not Brussels, to the Americans. And President Trump himself reposted it within hours. So you have a sovereign Islamic quartet with no colonial history in Iran, no Sykes-Picot baggage, and no 75 years of imperial management to answer for, trying to broker a sovereign resolution. That's a genuinely new thing, and it's happening because the old managers are no longer in the room. And it is important that you see that this is new. The dominant media narratives are written to keep you angry and impotent. Promethean action puts you on this new stage of history and gives you the in-depth analysis you need. So head on over to our website and sign up for our free newsletter. The link is in the description. Now, the empire being out of the room only matters if someone else is in it and acting like an American. And that's where Vice President J.D. Vance comes in. President Trump confirmed that Vice President Vance will be the lead negotiator for the U.S., and the well-sourced Barak Ravid at Axios gave that background. He says, Vance's seniority in the administration and his well-documented opposition to open-ended conflicts overseas, White House officials say, make him a more attractive interlocutor for the Iranians than Witkoff and Kushner. Partly for those reasons, Witkoff recommended Vance as lead negotiator. And Axios quotes another senior administration advisor saying, if the Iranians can't strike a deal with Vance, they won't get a deal. And the article makes clear that Vance has directly challenged Netanyahu on Israel's overly optimistic assessment on regime change and on its endgame goals, both of which diverge from the administration's. The neoconservative model that ran American Middle East policy for 30 years never did that. American foreign policy was just a tool in the British toolkit alongside Israeli foreign policy, and Muslim Brotherhood fostered extremism. The result? 30 years of managed conflict and no resolution. Vance is doing something different, acting as an American official representing American interests, including our interests in not fighting a forever war. Now, Vance's role is public, but it does echo something older. It echoes the role that Robert F. Kennedy Sr. played in the Cuban Missile Crisis. JFK sent his brother, the Attorney General, to conduct secret back-channel discussions with the Soviets because he knew that RFK shared his agenda, the American agenda, and that the Soviets would understand that. This is what RFK Jr. is pointing at, not a specific tactic, but a disposition. And that disposition has largely been absent since FDR last exercised American power during World War II. The endgame of that war was to defeat fascism. But Roosevelt's stated intention, unfulfilled because he died before the war ended, was to free the world from British 18th century methods. Unfortunately, those methods remained intact until now, as managed conflicts kept especially the Mideast from economic development and peace. Now, the same break you're watching in Islamabad is happening simultaneously in trade and monetary policy. And this week, both Peter Navarro and Scott Bessent put a name to it. In a Politico interview, presidential trade advisor Navarro made clear that this administration is carrying out a revolution.
Our trade policy is fundamentally revamping the entire world order in the language of the other side. Donald Trump, going back in history, channeling Alexander Hamilton, channeling McKinley, channeling Henry Clay, is basically adopting an America First policy where the protection against unfair trade makes us stronger.
So Navarro joins Trade Ambassador Jamieson Greer, Treasury Secretary Bessent, and Vice President Vance in affirming that this administration's policy is that of the champions of the American system. And Navarro then made clear who represents the old order. He was asked about Mark Carney, former governor of the Bank of England and now Canadian Prime Minister, who is currently organizing a WTO coalition to try and check Americans' trade policy. Navarro was direct. He said, "It's typical Carney behavior. We've got a problem in Great Britain and Canada with liberal Trump haters." Now, let's look at Carney's former employer, the Bank of England, which was suddenly in the news this week in a story that was overshadowed by Iran coverage and the government shutdown. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent went to war with the Financial Times, the mouthpiece of the City of London, on the issue of the Bank of England. The FT published a story claiming Besant had praised the Bank of England as a model for restructuring the Federal Reserve. And before they published it, Besant had given them an on-the-record denial, and they ran it anyway on anonymous sources. So Besant shot back with vehemence. By publishing this explicitly false story, the FT has officially become tabloid trash for market participants. In short, FT has literally manufactured an entirely fake policy position for me and the administration. And here's the punchline. He went on to say, there is much to be said about the storied Bank of England, but any recreation of its operating framework on this side of the Atlantic has never been contemplated. The shameful journalists and editors at the FT are shocking in their meretriciousness, lack of standards, and general intellectual libertinism. It is the worst tradition of Fleet Street to manufacture news rather than report it. So what's really going on here? The Bank of England model is the City of London's preferred architecture for central banking. Besant is rejecting that. He wants to narrow the Fed's mandate and return to financial instruments and credit instruments that will serve productive economic activity. When the FT tried to claim his reform agenda for their framework, he smacked it down with force. The American system revival that Navarro is pursuing in trade, that Besant is pursuing in monetary policy, that Vance is expressing in foreign policy, it's all one thing. So whether it's the FT or Carney's rules-based order or the Chatham House autopsy, it's the same old imperial order responding to Trump's new American agenda. Which takes us back to where we started. RFK Jr. at CPAC saying his father and uncle would support what Trump is doing in Iran and in the economy. What Kennedy is saying is that there is an older tradition that defines what American power is actually for. Not managing conflict for imperial financial interests, not free trade frameworks that drain American manufacturing, not central banking architectures designed in the City of London, but policies that support sovereign national development, productive economy, and policies that are actually for peace built through construction. Hamilton named it, FDR reasserted it, JFK tried to revive it, and Trump is the first president since then to bring it back to life. That is what is invisible inside the binary choices that the old order provides you. Pro-war or anti-war, free trade or socialism, Fed tightening or loosening. Every one of those binaries is a cage, designed to make the American system unspeakable. Well, Promethean Action speaks the American system loud and clear.
Welcome everybody. Feisty Digs, episode, 37, I think. Yes, everybody, it is Monday. It is 4:20 p.m. Eastern. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I know I did, and thank you everybody for joining us for Patriot Theater last night. We had a hell of a show. Got into a couple good movies, but and was eagerly anticipating Feisty Digs today, and we are joined. We actually have a guest this afternoon. We have both Feisty and Pinata. What up, guys?
Hey there.
Good afternoon.
I'm excited about being on with Pinata. I think we have once for a little bit.
This is a first.
Is
Maybe.
it a first?
Possibly.
I think it's first.
I don't know. I don't remember.
And we even get to see Pinata. Wow.
Very, very cool.
And we're going to get into a couple things today. Real quick, let me just say hello to everybody in both chats. I forgot to post it on X, so we're not streaming on X, unfortunately. But I'll kick it off here in a few when we get some discussion going. But good to see Jackie Wan, Shayla. God bless. I saw a whole bunch of Patriots in there. Oh, yes. Divining Rod 555. Thank you for the Rumble Rant. $5 Rumble Rant. God bless. Thank you so much. Sooner Nomad, Denishell, Tracy, Kelly, Leeburn, Maiden, Jared, Just Sharing, hey, there's Amboyer. JJ, what's up, JJ and Wanda? Welcome, everybody, over in Rumble. We got a whole lot of Patriots over there in Pilled as well. Dixie was the first one to drop a phone. Thank you, Dixie. And S. Jones. There's S. Jones. Thank you for the cookie. Just fed up with the cookie. I'm ready to learn more. You better be. You better be. When we got Feisty on and now Pinata, yeah, we're going to get our learn on today. And thank you, Beth Harris, with a cookie. Enjoy another cookie. God bless. And Dylan 1954, also with 117 gold pills. The Promethean ladies. Susan Kokenda. You know, I hope, and I don't know if the City of London, the whole English influence side of things is going to come more to fruition, come to light more so than it already is.
It's about to collapse.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
That's today's activities alone prove that. There he goes. There he goes. Well, Trump is threatening escalation, right? As a result of that escalation, oil is somewhere around 116 a barrel. I think 120 is the top. But what that also does, and then Spain, of course, closed airspace to U.S. traffic, to U.S. warplanes. Oh. So all three of those things put a hurt on. NATO's fractured. The shadow banking system's fractured. We're actually escalating that risk to what we were talking about last week with the shift to a new policy. Remember I was explaining that China's using Enbridge because it's not enough to have the product. You got to move it, right?
Yep.
And financially, you have to have that mechanism in place. And Enbridge is China's mechanism. We have SWIFT, which is fundamentally flawed. So we can't do anything near as quickly or as efficiently as what Enbridge is doing. This is where the Clarity Act comes in, by the way.
Enbridge, so, can you, for the not as actively involved out there?
It's the payment rails for moving product.
Have you heard
payment
of this
systems?
You've heard
I'm
of this?
assuming it sounds like payment systems to me.
Yeah,
and,
it's
like the administrative part of actually the physically moving the things around. I mean, electronically, but physically moving it around.
Yeah,
it's a digital answer to the sluggishness of traditional systems like SWIFT.
Yeah. Okay.
So they've already started using it, and they've got several countries aligned with them. Is it the predominant? No. But because they now can move energy, which is why they're not helping in the Strait, because they don't mind that oil prices are up. They're making a few bucks, right?
Yep.
So they can move it.
And they're paying us back too at the same time. Not paying us back, but
this is
they're
why Scott
punishing
Bessent
us.
said the Clarity Act is a national security threat by not passing it. And he said it's got to be passed by the middle of May. Remember?
Yes.
He said this is a national security. That's why. Is because if we can't move, we got a glut of oil, right? We got 10 tankers out of Iran. We got Venezuela. We are letting Russia into Cuba, which Trump said today he doesn't mind that.
So for the ones out there,
and by the way, Russia is not using Enbridge because of sanctions. So he released.
So they're not allowed to.
Right. So in other words, that signifies that Russia is using traditional funding rails, right? Unless they're giving tankers of oil as a gift for free, which I doubt.
I'm glad you're bringing this up because I've only, as really like the last 6, 7, 8, 9 months, have I really kind of centered some research on the aspect of trade. Because I recognize just because it's not that glowing topic, that big shiny topic that we typically like to latch onto, it's one of those topics that I think are huge indicators. Trade, that is, right? Like Pinata said, moving product and stuff. That right there strikes me now, and it's taken me 44 years to finally figure this out, but that's usually a very good indicator that we're getting things back. We're taking it back.
We took back control. We've been quietly taking back control. When we went from LIBOR to SOFR, we quietly took back control of the interest rate, right? Before then, City of London was doing that in a more subjective manner. Now it's based on actual activity, and it's controlled by the Treasury. So there was the big first step in kind of gaining control over not just our financial system, but how we interact globally, because the US dollar is a reserve currency. And if we're going to keep that status, we need to get better control over its usage, right? So,
Ergo, the Don Rowe doctrine.
I believe it's this year the basket of currencies designation comes back up for a vote. So it's something that's got to be done pretty quickly.
So so shout out to our Canadian patriots out there listening. So the carnies of the world, not just happenstance that they install the guy who happens to have been a banker of the Bank of England,
right?
Who wasn't even previously, if memory serves me correct, wasn't even a resident of Canada for a while, right?
Oh, he wasn't.
Well,
as the CEO of the Bank of England, he lived in the City of London. I mean, come on.
City of London, all this talk, and I love that we're now starting. It's not entering the discussion nationally. It's not the national discussion. Sadly, that's what I hope is on the horizon. I'm hopeful that people will start to realize that it's the City of London, that it's Great Britain. We played a movie last night called Shelter, which was interesting because it's a new movie with Jason Statham. It's an action movie, but it's all about mass surveillance and MI6, City of London, all of that, which is why we do what we do on Sunday nights. But I fell asleep. And I want to bring Pinata in on today's discussion as well, where I think we're going to discuss a little bit of big picture, maybe what's going on with Epstein, this whole everything involved.
I am finding that story more and more fascinating. Not the garbage, not the noise.
Yeah.
The actual story of Epstein.
Yeah. Which shout out to Michael Tracy as well. Michael Tracy's over the target, it seems like, with a lot of that. Pinata, you see that as well. Yep. And then on top of that...
Wait. I need that moment, okay? If you don't mind. I really need that moment of Feisty, you were right.
Yeah. Well, Feisty.
I've been saying this since 2019.
You know why Feisty needs this? And she does.
I need it.
She deserves it because she was ostracized for a long time.
Over these very comments.
Yeah.
That are now starting to seep into public awareness.
It resonated with me, though. I think with the first show.
The Rothstein dig kind of was a punch, right?
That's kind of taken me a little bit to, because I don't see that entering the discussion, but.
Well, it's not so much that Rothstein enters this discussion; it's the model.
Yeah, the
Ponzi scheme.
The Ponzi
model.
scheme model, right?
And how that was used in the Epstein story.
I mean, they're still using it right now. I mean,
they're still using it.
Just today or yesterday, the victims are now suing because everything got released. The thing that they were pushing to get released, they're suing the government now.
Well, because the government released their names, and which is funny, which is
because
why
they're not victims.
Sean and I honed in on that, where Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, they're all saying, if you got information, come see us. Yeah. They wanted the victims to come forward, and not one of these victims who are suing came forward. Hint, hint, hint. And they're not in the database.
And that's going to come out. That's going to come out in the court filings, I suspect, that
they were never victims.
They were not determined to be victims. So,
you can't. It's not an arbitrary designation.
Right.
There's got to be an active and relevant case associated with your victim identification number. And if you're an Epstein victim, and we're calling for Epstein victims to come forward, and you're not. And oh, by the way, the fact that you said in court that you lied about your age or you wouldn't have gained access, number one, and number two, that you were all paid for a service.
Shout out to Tides Foundation.
Kind of makes your case weak.
And again, all this, all right, for anyone who has Epstein fatigue, I'm here to tell you, okay, so we just had a weekend full of what, No Kings protests, who's funded by what?
Yep.
Again, Tides Center, who's also funding these so-called survivors.
World Without Exploitation,
Right.
the Survivor Network.
Which I hate saying. Damn them for making me have to say so-called survivors, but really they are. And
well, it's frustrating because there are victims.
they're real victims, yeah.
You're clouding that.
And for those who don't know Pinata, which make sure you are following Pinata, because he conveniently covers, and we should really thank Pinata because he does the stuff that none of us want to do. And I don't know how you got the stomach for it, but he watches the leftists, so
I
mainstream
can't believe
media,
you do that.
and so he conveniently knows
They actually revealed quite a bit.
the counter narratives, or what the narrative is in mainstream going on.
You know, kind of the argument they think they have. If we're going to a debate, they think they have an argument, and I know what our argument is, and I want to see, okay, what is your argument? And turns out most of it is all entirely hearsay, innuendo, and
Inference.
and a public mismatch between what has been perceived to be, which is versus what it actually is. And I think that's a big thing.
But one of the things,
and I, you know, I've been kind of in that space of that what we were told about this was not the real thing since last July, just to preface this. So like when Trump made his announcement and he said, we're still talking about this guy, and everybody else was freaking out. I was one of the few, like you guys, that stepped back and said, wait a minute, why? And then for me, it was like, okay, there must be a public mismatch between what we think the Epstein stuff was versus what it actually was. I didn't know what it was at the time. More of the stuff you guys have done that I've seen come out kind of parallels and tracks with my thought process, as well as we've learned more about this stuff. Because I'm going in and I'm seeing, I've seen so many different victim videos. I've seen the victim survivor videos. I've seen people that cover it in there. They're like Tara Palmieri type of people, the people that are in there with
Farmers.
the lawyers, the Bradley Evers. Then they get interviewed. I've seen all the people that are pushing the Epstein Transparency Act. So for the past, like, at this point, we're coming up on a year, I've been seeing all of them, how they're pushing this from their side, and it completely jives. It doesn't jive with what we were told, and more about what we think was going on as far as this kind of this model of Ponzi scheme civil lawsuit becomes more and more crystallized, I think, because they just don't have a counter. They don't have an argument against it, and they're not providing what should be easy to provide as proof. And the more of these files that were coming out, you kind of see how it really shows that it was a kind of like a go recruit a friend, make some money. You're young, you're dumb, and you're making stupid mistakes, and then they're blurred the line between what a victim was and what an actual co-conspirator would be.
And how easily.
well, you know, one of the things that rang out to me back in 2019 after Epstein, and I'm sorry, did not kill himself. I know the FBI is saying otherwise, but one of the things that stood out to me was almost immediately information about Ghislaine Maxwell started coming out. And it was like, son of a gun. They lost their perpetrator, right? And they immediately turned the narrative on her. And it just took a little bit of research to figure out that she was fully investigated back in 2007 and 8. And they found nothing.
When she had a boyfriend?
And on top of it, her boyfriend, Ted Waite, was essentially being blackmailed. It broke up their relationship. And now they're using her as the queen bee that organized all this. It was like, cried foul from day one on that. And I've been on this warpath for quite a while. And of course, I'm a pedo protector.
That's what they call him, Trump.
Right? I'm all of these things before Trump got named those. So that's why I said I need the moment. If you will. Because it just logic when you step back, there's something else going on, which is why the Epstein story is so intriguing. Because from what I can tell, first of all, it is not a crime to get $150 million in a contract. Okay, what would be a crime is if he didn't deliver, and they could sue, right?
Yep.
A breach of contract. There's no instances of a breach of contract.
Okay, I'm glad
The man's brilliant in business, right?
I'm glad you brought this up because there's a story that just came out before I get to that, thank you to Just Fed Up, Mitchell DM with a cookie in a can, and then Non-Persona. God bless you. Thank you for becoming a monthly supporter and gifting a sub. So I don't know if you heard this, but Bank of America is apparently set to pay a... This is the trend. Pinata trend analysis every Wednesday, by the way. I don't know if we can do it this Wednesday. We'll talk after. Bank of America is set to pay a $72.5 million settlement over Epstein lawsuit. It's a federal lawsuit claiming it enabled sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. It's claiming that the Bank of America, quote, ignored obvious red flags.
And they're doing the same thing they've always done, right? They're not going to trial over this.
Right.
They're just quietly paying up.
Just like the...
Why would you do that?
I don't know. Just like the Fox News and the Dominion thing. Same thing, right? The bank...
Could it be because to go to court, you would have to reveal things that aren't ready to come out?
Yeah. How do you inject
And then
things
there could
legally?
be a form of recovery if it turns out that it was fraudulent, right?
The lawsuit claimed could have brought law enforcement down upon Epstein sooner if it had adopted a see no evil policy. Epstein didn't kill himself in 2019 in a federal jail while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges, which were never followed through. Why? Because he didn't kill himself. It's now the third bank, Feisty and Pinata. It's now the third bank to settle a lawsuit. Settle. Not fight a lawsuit. Not, defend yourself from a lawsuit. JP Morgan Chase ponied up $290 million. Everybody. Deutsche Bank settled also for $75 million. So the Bradley Edwards, is this the angle that the Bradley Edwards...
It feels like a shakedown, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. So is that what this is all about? It's a shakedown from one side, but what's Trump's angle? Because you can look at this from two different lenses, right? You can look at this from the nefarious side, seemingly nefarious side, Bradley Edwards, and the so-called victims, and maybe leftist mainstream media and whoever else is trying to capitalize on the story. Or you can look at this from Trump's angle, and our community is kind of surfing between both sides, if that makes any sense, right? We're still kind of largely stuck in the temple, the satanic abuse and all that, but I'm starting to see a break now in that, and shout out to everybody here right now, because you guys are, I think, ahead of the curve. We're ahead of the curve, I think. We're entertaining sides of this that nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, people like Michael Chasey are entertaining. But
I'd like to say, like, since we were talking about this, that when I first saw you should demonstrate the model. I think that was somewhat November-ish last year.
Yeah.
The Rothstein model that was in September.
So, because was it just before or after the September 3rd was the in front of the
it was after, it was right after
their conference,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that's when I saw that, and I didn't see anybody throw Trump under the bus in there, because I'm like, I was just waiting for that day. I was like, there's no way they're not going to do that, and they didn't. And I was like, okay, there's something else. It just furthered the intrigue that I had about the kind of the theory about the shakedown aspect of it, and the right before I lost my train of thought, because we were talking about the banks. And I wonder how much of it seems to me that's like the corporate version of the private party shakedown that we were seeing. It's the same version of it. It's, hey, settle this. You don't want this to be in the headlines. You don't want that. You want this association, and then that you cut your loss on that, and you just get the shakedown from the association. But it seems like Trump is like, when he seems like he's being so cold to these people, he's really showing the model of, if you don't show them,
I see what you're saying.
Don't tell them what you, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't give a heads up.
But
that's what I'm saying. Could it be that the quiet payout is because whatever is behind it. I know there's an investigation. Todd Blanche told us that.
Then why are they continuing to shake these banks down if that's the case?
Well, here's the thing. What's interesting about these cases, because they're civil, Discovery
Well, they can't really have a say, can they?
Well,
I mean,
Discovery
the
has a
DOJ
way.
can't go in there on that.
Well, Discovery has a way of forcing information out that maybe you don't want to have out yet.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
because Discovery is like the gold mine of information that's otherwise shielded. So that's the only thing I could think of is to prevent discovery into anything that may be happening behind the scenes. You do the payout and settle up later when it's all out.
So are we saying the banks could be implicated in this along with everybody?
Not so much implicated, but
willful participants.
They know. Okay,
this is a shakedown. I think that was the perfect term for this.
I think I look at it from a purely PR perspective.
PR,
they just don't want
They're
to
trying to keep out of the
out there,
news.
and it'll be in and out. It'll be done, and that's it. And they cut that. And like you said, if there's something that's a problem with it later, that it was ill-gotten, and they can claw it back.
Guys, if I'm a bank, I need you to provide me evidence that this son of a bitch was a sex trafficker before I settle $290 million.
Okay, so wait a minute, Sean. How long does it take to get a case like this to get before a bench? 2.5 years?
Yeah.
Sometimes
maybe
longer, right?
Okay.
Volume of discovery.
Do you want your entity dragged through the mud on what's publicly being spread about Epstein? No.
I mean, let's just say this was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they might have taken the case and gone through it. But now, in this environment,
there was examples. J.P. Morgan didn't.
Yeah, they quickly settled. That's what I'm saying.
Settled.
There's already
enough. But in the last year, right?
In the last year, no, it's too toxic.
There's already enough publicly available information, and it's the way I see it, to suggest
publicly available, not publicly saturated. Right.
That's what I meant.
It's not in the consciousness.
So in during the last term with Biden, to me, it was like they would have had a better shot of taking the public case and taking it to there. But here, I mean, you got both sides, left and right, all hyper focused on this, and as soon as they got wind, they're going to fight this. These are pedo protector banks. I'm not never doing business with XYZ Bank again.
I want to add a layer of complexity. It was in the Epstein or the Rothstein dig. Remember I showed you where New York did an analysis of Deutsche Bank and all the accounts, and what they found were payments being made to women of Middle Eastern names, and it was covering their living expenses. Do you remember this? There were several. I chopped out several pieces of their report about it, and I put it all on a slide going, this is starting to bring up something else going on. Number one. Number two, I showed you the convenient matching of SOAR, and SOAR. Right?
SOAR, yeah.
SOAR, Virginia Giuffre's NGO, the activity within DHS under SOAR, and the law that Trump signed the bill that Trump signed into law called SOAR, and it was all about what? Recovery services for victims of trafficking.
So this is what suggests to me, Feisty, that there's more going on here. I think, and maybe the banks were participating in something else. There's something else I think that the bank feels guilty about. Because, again,
I don't think it's guilt. I honestly don't think
we're talking about one of the oldest banks in the world, Bank of America.
Well, trust me, I am partial to Bank of America. It's an Italian-started bank, so please. But no, I don't think it's guilt. You're an entity. You don't have feelings. You have bottom lines. And the bottom line is it would be very expensive to challenge something that the public isn't on board with. The public doesn't see Epstein as a valid, let alone good actor. So anything you would challenge against an Epstein claim would be a very expensive endeavor.
$75 million expensive?
That's an expensive endeavor at a time when liquidity is already an issue.
I mean, to me, to us, to me, it already speaks guilt. It already shows guilt.
Well, that's because your propensity is to see that. But from a corporate perspective, it isn't about guilt. It's about the bottom line. What is the least expensive way of getting through this? Settlements are traditionally have been.
Same thing with the catch and kill stuff that from the National Enquirer stuff that Trump had to deal with.
Right.
See-
I mean, celebrities and other people that they do this kind of stuff all the time.
It's a much less intensive. And not only that, you get it off the headlines fast. Believe it or not, that will stay maybe 24, 48 hours and off, gone, goodbye. So it protects them from a PR standpoint. I mean, who remembers JP Morgan as being one of the first banks to be shaken down?
Yeah, it's already gone.
It's already gone.
It's not. Nope. I don't see anything about people addressing it at all. I never even saw them
Okay, that's fair.
Listen Now or any of the leftist media even reprimand them or anything. I didn't see anything. Maybe when it was the day or two of the week of out gone.
All right, that's fair.
Never to be. I haven't heard it mentioned again.
Like I said, it's an entity. One thing they don't have is a conscience, right? They have numbers. All it is run by numbers.
Lawyers estimate there are at least 60 women who were victimized by Epstein between those dates, the dates of June 30th, 2008 and July 6th, 2019.
You know, it's interesting because if you do a search right now, there are somewhere around, let me think, 1,114 victims.
Yeah, that's what they say, right?
Right.
Didn't they have a list? There was some list. They said this is approximately 1,200, and is that the number you're thinking of?
Well,
they had a whole list, and they said all these are redacted, and this
names.
is what we think.
Most of them are redacted.
Yeah.
Okay, and it reeks of the Ponzi scheme because their names were redacted or changed, right? They're
even they themselves, the recruiting tactics was very much like
the exact same thing.
The marketing. What do they call that when people do the Ponzi marketing thing? When they're like, "Oh, here, go tell five friends, and then we're going to give them a cut off the top of your thing." And
well, you build a network, right? And the more little nodes you build off your network, the more money you make.
Right,
and that's exactly
that point,
how it was
they
built.
themselves are the ones going out and doing the illicit part of it. And then the other person, they just to get people to show up. It's almost as if they don't.
And
even
then to give it validity, you set up, after Epstein does not kill himself, you set up an Epstein Victims Compensation Fund where the estate is required to pay out with no questions. So it gives validity to the awards being made.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and also the claims too, because that's almost all. Right now, the current thing that they're trying to do is they're trying to get Jane Doe 4 to be paid off by the Epstein Compensation Fund. Now, there's conflicting things right now. We have Judy Bloom. Sure, not Judy Bloom. What's her name? Is it Judy? Am I thinking of something?
I can't think. I don't know where you're going.
Lisa Bloom.
Lisa Bloom. Okay, Lisa Bloom.
I somehow I got an old time kids novels mixed up. Okay. So Bloom was an attorney for Jane Doe 4.
Right.
They're the ones that were mentioned in the 4302, where she comes in, they say they want to audio record it. She says, no, what's the point anyway? Nothing can be done. It happened too long ago. So she leaves and says, any further correspondence to our lawyer. Then we have, then in May of 2021, this is the letter that says that Jane Doe 4 and 7 are not being compensated by the fund. By December of that year, they dropped their case. In the court listener, you can see it.
Wow.
They dropped their case with prejudice. Now, if they drop their case with prejudice and
it means it can't be brought up again.
But does that mean that they could have gotten paid?
Well, one of the problems they have is they used a civil route, and because Epstein was never convicted of pedophilia, they didn't have standing.
But one of the arguments I've seen against people that say that, well, she dropped her case, but then it was because she got paid. They wouldn't have to drop the case.
No, they wouldn't. It was one or the other. They couldn't do both because
you
if they
can't
got
drop
paid,
your case and get paid.
Yeah, if you chose,
would you drop your case and your complaint after you got paid?
Okay, the way the Victim Compensation Fund worked, if you took money from the estate, which is between $1 million and $1.5 million,
okay,
then you were prevented from suing civilly, or you went civil route. And we had a case go to the courts under the civil route, but because Epstein did not kill himself, therefore was never convicted, that route dried up. Now, remember, the Victim Compensation Fund closed in 2023, was it?
Mm-hmm.
There's no more claims being accepted. So the only thing left are civil.
Right. So
which
this
has
was
no standing because you don't have a dead man. You don't have a
so
convicted
this
man.
was through this Jane Doe Force sued through a civil suit through the Victims Compensation Fund to sued the estate with
the Victim Compensation Fund is the Epstein estate. Yes.
Okay. So yeah. So they sued. She sued there. They dropped the case in December of 2021.
So she didn't sue, which means she can't go back to the VCP.
Right. But also, but people on the left are saying that because she dropped her suit with prejudice, that means she got paid.
No.
That can't be happened, right?
Can't be true.
Okay.
No.
I wanted to make that sure because that's what they're hanging.
It cannot be
I'm bringing
true.
this up because the left and all the people in the news media, they're hanging this whole thing on she has to be credible because she got paid out by the
There
Epstein
it is.
estate. And because she mentioned both Trump and Epstein, therefore she has to be credible.
Here's the
therefore,
angle.
Trump is credibly accused. Therefore, we're going to go impeachment. This is what they're.
So
I'm saying. This is why I bring it up. That's why I wanted to
things-
clarify that point because I wanted to make sure that wasn't a real
I
thing.
think one of the angles that's worth thinking about is why, if remember, the Victim Compensation Fund cannot be questioned, right? These are cases presented. They're presented to the estate. The estate pays out. There's no questions asked. It's vetted by another set of parties. So if the case was dropped without prejudice, it sounds to me that it was going to be one of those cases that was not going to be granted funding.
Right.
And so dropping it without prejudice means you can't bring it up again, but it also is an action you would take to let it die down so that doesn't come out.
Right.
Imagine if you're a, quote, victim and it's proven otherwise. So
Yeah.
I'm just pointing
Well, that's what they're
out-
showing here because
Because the
her
estate-
entire account is wholly inconsistent with every
Well,
other
it didn't
survivor
make it.
slash
That's my
victim.
point.
Even
It could-
people on the left were making standalone videos saying that this doesn't look good, and it seems as though once
It
they
doesn't
figured
look
that
good
out,
for
it
her.
dropped out completely because they just showed that if she's lying about that.
Well, that's my point, because it never made it to the fund administrators. Darren Indicke and I can't think of the other guy, Khan. It never made it to the fund administrators. This had to have been dropped without prejudice before it ever was presented, because the fund administrators can't ask questions. That's done before it's presented.
Oh, really? Okay. So because the
So it never made it
we
to
had
the
a-
Epstein estate.
Right. So we had a letter in May of 2021 from the law firm, and they said
Lisa Bloom's-
she was listed as someone who was not eligible.
Yeah,
So that determination would have already been made by that May date.
it would have been. It was made there, and
Okay.
she's lost.
Good.
Not
Okay.
eligible says again. That's not the estate making that determination.
Right.
Remember that.
Okay.
So not eligible says, well, yeah, you got some issues with your public versus actual realities.
Good. That gives me some good ammo. I appreciate that.
No
Good
problem.
clarification.
So it says the lead plaintiff alleged that after meeting Epstein, this is the Bank of America one. And by the way, Catfish made a great point in the chat, kind of backing you up a little bit, Feisty, on this. Sean, let's not forget that the CEO of Chase between 2008 2019 was directly involved and knowingly kept Epstein's money circulating through Chase which could explain the $290 million payout. Then says, I quit Chase in 2022 when I found out. Now I only use PayPal, Venmo, Chime, and Cash App.
Well, can I make another comment?
Yeah.
One of the things that's not adding up is it's supposedly $121 million that's sitting in the Victim Compensation Fund. But there's other estate monies that are being paid out. I can't help but wonder, after Epstein did not kill himself, if any of those monies sitting in those accounts were being codified into another account for something else. Not necessarily a payout, but an emptying or draining of the existing accounts, pulling them together.
Well, again, this looks like a scam, because
I don't know if it's a scam.
Well,
That's
listen,
the thing. I don't know
I can
if they
prove
were
it.
just trying to get the estate monies
I think
together.
I can prove it. How? I mean, victims, so-called victims, are being incentivized to come forward.
Right.
We have banks that are shelling out millions, hundreds of millions of dollars for anybody to just claim you're a victim. And they don't have to do it
But
with
they
proof.
don't mean muster at DOJ as a victim.
They don't even need proof because the banks are paying it out anyways. And as you stated too, you have to get a VIN number. You get like a victim ID number when it's proven that you're a victim. But these ones don't need that apparently just to get paid.
Well, no, there is a vetting process. What we don't have is sunlight into the group that's vetting and what their findings are, because they're vetting it and they're presenting to the estate valid cases for payout. All the estate is doing is writing a check after some other entity reviews and vets. So I don't know per se that group that's vetting what criteria they're using, because there's a lot of conflicting information about that.
They're doing the same thing to Harrods.
Harrods, yeah.
The same.
The Alpha End, yeah.
It's like a Ponzi
identical.
scheme.
It's the identical thing.
So it says the lead plaintiff alleged that after meeting Epstein in 2011, and through 2019, quote, Epstein sexually abused Jane Doe on at least 100 occasions. Epstein himself, again, he's being accused of trafficking. But they're saying here, Epstein sexually abused Jane Doe 100 occasions. How much sex and how many individuals was he having sex with?
That's what I was saying the other day to somebody. 1,114 victims.
Come on, man. No.
Ooh, I'm surprised it didn't fall off.
So it says...
Weren't they saying he was doing it 3 times a day? I'm
3 and 4.
What?
I didn't even
Really?
know that was possible.
It's really not several days like that for an infinity in a row. No, it's not.
Right.
And says, including but not limited to...
A lot of blue pill action, right?
Forcibly touching her, forcibly raping her, and forcing her to
Rubbing
engage...
raw. It's just like it's literally a friction problem. I mean,
There you go. You made Sean go up pellets. I love it. Thank you.
take a glass from the dishwasher and throw it in some cold water, and then
Oh my gosh!
Oh, you need to do it. Needed to be said on Friday night.
I know, right?
Because that was good.
Says here the suit says that in May of 2013, the woman known in court papers as Jane Doe opened a bank account at Bank of America at the direction of Epstein's accountant and an immigration attorney to defraud immigration officials. This was 2013. Makes sense of that. At the heart of the amended complaint, lead plaintiff alleges that Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking venture, mind you, this plaintiff here is not claiming that she was trafficked. She's claiming she was raped and molested by Epstein himself. So
I gotta laugh though. My God, 100 times and you said nothing.
I thought they're being trafficked out to people.
Well, they got to now change that narrative. Remember, because there is no evidence of pimping or trafficking.
Well,
there's no evidence of blackmail.
Well, so they're
having to edit their narratives, and of course he's not a convicted pedophile, so now they're just calling him sexual pervert.
But they're using this to attack the DOJ, attack Pam Bondi, that you're not doing anything against the people who these women were supposedly trafficked to.
So one of the things that stands out to me, remember when Pam Bondi said in the hearing that there were several pending investigations at DOJ over the Epstein stuff?
Yep.
Why would a case be pending?
I don't know. I'd ask that. I don't know why she would say that.
I know why.
Well, of course, I know why.
Does that mean there's actually something?
She doesn't have a victim to match to the cause.
Oh boy. Or
you got a complaint,
or
but no victim that is a valid victim needs to be part of it.
Yeah, okay,
what if it's a conspiracy?
Well, I think the whole thing is, but
right. But then,
if they come forward and they want to press criminal charges, then they have to go through and their story has to be validated. And I think that's what they're not wanting.
And none of them have a victim identification number, which means it's never been validated, right?
So can you just very briefly, just like elevator of the explanation of the victim identification number?
Okay, so
where does
when
that come
you're
from? Who is responsible for it?
okay, so I don't know if you recall, but
Keep going in this
Ro Khanna,
conversation. I'll be right back.
yeah, Ro Khanna put out an email tagging Todd Blanche saying this is a victim. Care to why is her name redacted?
Hmm.
No, this person is not a victim. Why is this name not redacted?
Okay.
And Todd Blanche came back and said, this is a victim. Care to edit your post? And so, doing a little bit of research, I know who it is. Her name is Gail. She was what's his name? Gold Bar Bob. She was his girlfriend for a bit, and they tried to use her in a trial. So I know who she is. Ro Khanna's brother's involved, all of that. But here's the rub. Because she is a credible victim, you actually get in to the victim's notification database.
Okay.
And you get what is called a VIN, a victim identification number. And when you present yourself to DOJ as a victim, it's with that number, that case, it's because it's relevance and the fact that it's active, all is a part of this. So in order for any of these, quote, victims to present to DOJ, they would have had to have a victim identification number and their case validated to be a part of what DOJ is doing. So
when they're saying we needed to hide the victims' names, that really
the only names that are redacted are victim names. Think about it.
I mean,
So there's a lawsuit.
But did they do that?
Yeah.
Did the DOJ do that? Because it seemed, because right now the perception is that, oh, it was careless, they was fast, they had to do all this stuff so quickly.
There have been issues. I'm not going to lie. There were issues of which they've corrected. They've unredacted, or they've redacted some things that shouldn't have been.
Okay.
And they've taken care of it. But for the most part, none of these victims' names, that's why the lawsuit, because if you tell it to DOJ, they're immediately fixing the problem. But none of these names have been redacted to this day.
Right. Well,
so what that is saying,
and their, I guess, and the other side argument would be, well, in their defense, the FBI, the DOJ, they've never taken this seriously. They've never had their justice, so therefore they can't.
You've got almost 2 years
have that kind of status.
If you've got any information, come forward.
Okay.
I mean, there's a problem.
So that's why the repetition of come forward.
Yes,
we have our doors open. Why haven't they done this? And this is why they're doing the whole thing. Why don't you stand up and acknowledge why don't you stand up and acknowledge the victims and because it's like if anyone has anything, come forward.
Which is why that's so interesting that they're filing a lawsuit that their names weren't redacted, because it's an obvious. You can look it up. It's an actual documented process at FBI on what it means to be a victim and how to go through the process and what happens when you present yourself as a victim. So if they're not coming forward, it begs the question of whether or not they really are.
Or right? there's liability because of the complicity of recruitment.
Could be.
Because it seemed like almost all of them had some story or some version of it. They were coerced or were part of the recruitment.
Yeah, several of the victims were granted immunity, but to come forward with information about Epstein. So we don't know. We got to ferret through that one. So if they were used as recruiters, they were given partial immunity so they could get evidence against Epstein. But it still gets back down to the brass knuckles, right?
Would that mixed status still allow them to be part of the victim identification numbers?
It depends on the case. It really depends. Are they a victim? A victim of what? There has to be a case file, police record. There's some legitimate documentation that identifies you as a victim.
Okay.
Not just your words. It's not, hey, I'm a victim, give me a number. There's an actual chain of custody of records that gives you that credibility.
Okay.
And that information, every time you present as a victim for whatever reason, is revalidated each time. That's the process. So if they're not presenting themselves, they obviously can't muster the process, right?
I mean, how big is the threshold really?
What do you mean?
I mean, what?
Well,
to
is there
get that,
a police report? Is there a court case? Is there any kind of treatment record? Those
right? So a
kinds of
claim
things.
alone does not grant
My
that.
telling you I'm an Epstein victim is
Right.
not enough. I
Okay.
have to
Gotcha.
have something.
Okay.
You,
Which
you can't just, it's not an arbitrary designation,
gotcha.
which is
Okay.
a big deal.
All right.
So going back to the Lisa Bloom thing,
Mhm.
dropping that case with prejudice, meaning they can never bring it up again, before it gets to the estate to pay out, said that there are problems with the case. So whatever she's saying publicly somehow isn't matching, right?
Mhm.
And these are big holes that are worth pondering.
So these were the oh, hang on, I got to change something real quick here, and I want to so you can see what I was referring to. So this was what I came across. So there was from the Bloom firm here, May 3rd.
Yeah, I remember that.
At the bottom paragraph, it says plaintiff Jane Doe 4 and 7 were deemed ineligible to receive compensation via the program. And that's
So
from
remember, it's not the estate deeming them ineligible.
Mhm.
Just keep
Right.
that in
Yeah, yeah.
mind.
And then when we went to the court document, it was from court listener. It was this here where they said here, give by dotus, voluntarily dismiss with prejudice
Right.
by indict con. So the caretakers of the state.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Indiki and Khan were his accountants.
Mhm.
So, but it's not the estate that determines eligibility. That's my point.
Yeah, no, I get you.
And unfortunately for these women who keep trying to claim their status, these little finer points of the law are getting left out of the narrative.
No, I agree. And that's why I was, it was very part of the argumentation I've been seeing in the way that they've been trying to weave this thing from the opposition to try to pin anything to Trump. So that's kind of where my interest and focus is kind of like, okay, what do they think that they have? What do they think?
Well,
where are they thinking the walls are closing in, and what kind of, because a lot of times they'll try to take some little piece of truth and they'll try to amplify and they'll try to exaggerate it.
Yep.
And now I know that what they were trying to use now is they actually cannot be a valid
Well,
fact, which is why they kind of dropped
shift,
it.
since you like looking at patterns, another shift that I noticed with all of the Trump was a pedophile stuff, almost all of the key victims have since come out, since Trump's come back into office, to say, I never experienced any indecent behavior by him. And they've even gone as far now as to even say, no, Clinton never did anything wrong. Yet you had Gouffre, up until she did not commit suicide, saying that both were pedophiles.
What?
Yeah, remember?
When did Dufresne say that?
Virginia Gouffre has parroted that.
I'm sorry. I don't know what.
Yeah.
I confused two names.
I'm with Maggie D8 and Karen Hare. Shout out to you ladies, by the way. What I would,
yeah, I know. I've said there.
Encourage.
Man, I would love to get in on that.
Everybody, ladies, why don't you get in on this and let's expose it?
Because you know why? Our faces don't match the persona of those that are getting away with it, or at least seemingly. We would out ourselves too quickly and end up on the other side of the bars.
Thomas Massey, quote, Jeffrey Epstein was dealing with presidents and prime ministers and billionaires. Quote, and then here he is with these young girls. Before the first press conference with the women survivors, I wondered if it was appropriate to call Epstein a pedophile. Maybe he was a sexual deviant. But once I realized they were...
That's a narrative shift.
Right.
Catching it?
Yes. I caught it. I did.
Ooh,
yeah, I caught it, and this is why I brought it forward. But once I realized they were 14 and 13, Epstein was a pedophile. That is not an overuse of the word. Okay, Massengill. Victoria Derbyshire, quote, the survivors tell me they were grateful that millions of documents of the Epstein files were released, but then they say no arrest. They feel gaslit. Massey, I'm not satisfied until the survivors are satisfied. That's my benchmark. Those men need to be perp walked in handcuffs to the jail. Until we see that in this country, we don't have a system of justice that is working. You see what they're trying to do?
Well, they're also trying to claim that not all the files were released, which Todd Blanche has said that hasn't happened. But what they're setting up is something even more interesting, I think. If you've got victims who are not victims and they're not satisfied, and Massey is not going to be satisfied till they're satisfied, then it forces them to keep these, quote, victims to keep talking, Massey to keep going. He's injecting pedophilia back into the conversation after it's been suppressed to keep the chaos going. There's something going on. I don't know what it is.
Somebody needs to ask him directly, hey, Massengill, oh my gosh, can you actually provide evidence that all of this is true? That all of what you're suggesting here is true? And again, these couple things that he said here jumped out at me. Before the first press conference with the women survivors, I wondered if it was appropriate to call Epstein a pedophile. That's the narrative. They need to pedophile protectors. In
other words, they want to continue the narrative, right?
Right. You have this.
But think about it, Sean. Why would that narrative be? Why would he try to be re-injecting it? Because it was already being diluted. It was already coming out of the public speak. They were calling him all kinds of names. Pedophile stopped being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they couldn't even call him a trafficker because he's never been convicted of that.
I know.
He was convicted of two instances of prostitution. And one of them was a minor because it happened to be on the eve of her 18th birthday.
I thought that's
both
Maxwell.
Consensual.
I thought Maxwell's being charged with it.
She was charged with trafficking, yes. And what is her... Oh, thank you for bringing that up because that's before the Supreme Court. She's trying to get that sentence reviewed.
This is where the rug pulls.
That's where the rug pull's coming.
Ooh.
That's where it is. The Supreme Court is supposed to be reviewing her. Remember, she submitted all of her documentation.
They did that. They rejected. They didn't take the case, right?
They didn't take the case.
Okay.
Something is happening with it.
Something has to be because it can't just go into the ether.
She can't languish.
Right. Oh my gosh.
What? Maybe it's coming in as a different angle. Maybe,
timing.
I don't know.
There's got to be a timing aspect to this because, again, another group of individuals that are capitalizing on this are, again, I mentioned Bongino was just attacked the other day, confronted, being called a pedophile protector. And you look at anybody supporting Trump, everybody supporting Trump now are deemed a what? Pedophile protector.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this is what now is being deemed the Flynn Network.
Oh.
You see what I did there?
I saw what you did there.
Take it away.
Boy, did I see what you did there.
Take it away.
But I mean, on the left, I mean, I can understand that, but why? What benefit is there from this other side other than to try to make certain aspects toxic and to try to usurp something in some way?
Pinata.
I think the Flynn story is different.
But they're capitalizing on it nonetheless.
Yeah, they see that there's some they see.
I think that's an attraction. I think the gaslight.
They think that it is a poison or poison pill or actual. The walls will close in on this because I don't know whether they think that there's something that's there or not. But the problem with their argument is that they don't understand the fact that what we're talking about here, that it's not what it seems. They're basically doing and employing a whole strategy based upon an assumption that's not real, that's not true. which is dangerous.
And they're not getting much,
especially when you get a rug pull.
And they're not getting much resistance either, which I find interesting. Like,
well,
from Trump
it's
us.
this is a hard concept for people to really get work over. And this goes back to what I've always said about just anything in general, no matter what the topic is. If you don't have firsthand information on something that you saw it yourself, even your best friend saw it, you still have to be able to accept new information.
Yep.
That might change the way you think about something. I think a lot of people just don't have that capacity to really say, okay, you know what, I was wrong about that. Because there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of psychological stuff that comes with that. There's a lot of personal growth that comes with that. It's being able to forgive yourself, there's like a whole list of stuff you got to run down in order to have your mind changed based upon evidence. Because the way that adage goes, right? It's easier to fool someone, harder to tell someone they've been fooled. That's a real thing, and I think that's kind of what we're working against at the moment.
Laura Vogel, I am called a pedophile protector at least 5 minutes a day. You said, Feisty, that you have, let's hear it.
So the Flynn story, I think, is a little bit different. And I think he's purposefully aligning himself with interesting outcast type influencers.
Mm-hmm.
The Catholics for Catholics piece is also interesting. I started looking into it today, and full disclosure, Sarge and I have been going back and forth as to what the heck is going on because it's so hard to understand. And I was saying that he made accusations against the Lutherans and Catholic charities for taking billions of dollars and using that money illicitly. In fact, another group came out and said this is not true. We're heavily regulated, heavily audited. These aren't true. And so I've been really curious as a Catholic, why is he doing that? Because it looks like, and then Musk came out and basically supported what Flynn said and said Doge is going after all this fraud. And I thought that was an interesting nuance, especially since every agency has a Doge team, but there's no longer a central point for Doge. So I think what they're doing, and you can beat me up if you don't agree or you don't understand, but it looks like based on some of the things that are said and done, that Flynn is building an influence network to help push for the kinds of government reforms that require congressional authority. If Doge is going to be expanded to be that central authority, it needs congressional action to do that. They don't have that authority right now.
So it's a pressure campaign.
It looks like he's building one, yes.
Wow.
For those systemic changes within government. He's on one hand saying, the administrative state. And on the other hand, he's also advocating for a form of centralization. And I think what he's doing is building a coalition of activists, right? These outcast influencers tend to be very activist oriented, right?
Yep, but
I'm looking at Matt Walsh, Candace Owens. They have a largely younger crowd, very digitally capable. It's another digital warrior arm of his activism.
So you're kind of saying Flynn is like a waiter carrying a tray. Mm-hmm. And each of let's just say a round of drinks, and so
I'll have one.
He's carrying the tray, and each of those different drinks have a different coalition or some sort of association behind them. Mm-hmm. And then the idea is you're holding that, you're carrying them. At certain points, some of them will be offloaded, but you're still carrying some of them along the way further because it requires that vehicle to go take them further. So you're kind of offloading people and also carrying people at a certain time, depending and for different narratives. So maybe one tray is one narrative, another tray is another narrative.
Narrative.
You're keeping, and maybe not everyone ordered.
Not necessarily a narrative, but there is a definite agenda.
Yeah.
What the focus is. And I think the Catholics for Catholics one is interesting because it looks like that agenda is systemic reform on how NGOs are managed. Right now, they're managed pretty much through the GAO, which is congressional. The executive branch has no authority over that. So if they're pushing for systemic reforms that give Doge that expansion of oversight, this would be an ideal way of pushing for that.
Wow.
Actually, I think it's kind of brilliant.
But at the same time, they're getting a lot of resistance. Like I'm reading, Dave Rubin just posted, but I thought BB and some podcasters tricked Trump a few weeks ago. Like, there's plenty of resistance, like us, for instance, and there's plenty of other people that are, and
It isn't what those individuals are saying. It's who they attract. So you can bring in, I find it interesting that he's using Catholics for Catholics. The most maligned religion, right? Christian religion is Catholic. So it's interesting that he's using Catholics for Catholics, and on their board are a bunch of outcast Catholics, right? So I'm looking at that going, okay, there's a neat way of resolving some of that conspiracy, right? He went after Catholic Charities, and he went after the Lutherans, both of which are legitimate NGOs, and there's been no proof. I mean, Flynn put out spreadsheets, neat spreadsheets, but just shows money. There's no proof of criminal activity or behavior, and in fact, there's no...
All insinuations. Just insinuation.
It's all insinuation and inference. So, neat. Okay, so they got a good amount of money. Who's looking into it? And I can't find where either of those groups are being looked into in that sense. Yet, fraud at the NGO level is rampant, as we're seeing unfold. And you got a definite disconnect between these big NGOs that are recognized, get audited regularly, get reviewed, and these smaller NGOs that are spun up for the purpose of fraud. So the idea of creating, because remember, that activity is largely overseen by GAO. And GAO is the appointing body of the appropriated funds, and then they're going to investigate where those funds went. You got a little bit of a problem there, right?
Is there any parallel between, as far as scale would be concerned, between the NGO and a 501c3 vehicle that there's a lot of people, they'll say, oh, there's a lot of way too much overhead, not enough charity work going on for a lot of
that could very well be, and you get to make that
would that
choice.
be lumped in with the kind of reform for something else? So essentially, you're making a big deal about one particular thing, but then you're also going to reform something else, and maybe that was the whole idea.
But let me also
along.
point out, compliance is expensive. So if you're going to look for them to reduce their overhead, you got to look at the compliance hurdles they've got to go through, because it's like upwards of 70%. In some cases,
I've heard that. Yeah, it's at least that. Like, but the most egregious action ones are like what, above 90%? Is
right? And if compliance is a big issue, then you've got to reduce that burden. And part of reducing that burden is throughput on oversight, which I think the Doge team, and the only reason why I'm bringing that up is because Elon Musk and what he said. I mean, Elon Musk said we're going after this, and yet they didn't even come up with. They never even found $1 trillion, although he said there were at least $2+ trillion in fraud. So I'm just thinking through what a neat way to get a new set of singularly focused digital soldiers on the cause for systemic reform in the administrative state. I think that could be. I can send you more information to show where my thinking came from, but it sure looks like that could be where this is going. So it's not the message of these influencers, it's what they represent. They're the kind of people that they see nefarious action in a leaf falling off a tree. And it's the exact kind of mentality you need to get somebody to dig in and to see if there is something. And he set the standard by putting out spreadsheets that showed just money, but not criminal intent. So I'm like, okay, maybe this is where it's going. Because there does need to be reform. U.S. aid was being overseen by GAO. GAO gave U.S. aid money And look at the fraud that was in it.
How about these NGOs that just funded all these No Kings protests?
Right.
Protests.
And there's no oversight.
None. And I would argue, and I'm making this case, that anybody monetizing a constitutionally protected right, anybody monetizing it, this should be illegal. Is there any other constitutionally guaranteed right of ours that is monetized quite like protests?
Mm-hmm.
Is there? Can anybody think of anyone? I asked this question last night, and I can't find anything outside of maybe the Second Amendment, which not really even there, right? But protests, because it's not genuine, and you're currying public opinion on your side.
Well, where does the Citizens United thing come into play there?
Good question.
That's a really good question, because what did they say? Citizens United is a people, essentially, and can do campaign donations. I actually think, and this is my opinion, that the court is going to have to backtrack on that one just a tad. And I think it comes out of some of these other cases that come up. Because that opinion, if you go back and... Did you ever read that opinion? There were some confusing points made.
Well, I know this gets into the legalese side of things, but when you said it's defined as a people, you said?
Right.
Well, I know a person in the Black's Law Dictionary, which is legalese language, is defined as a corporation.
Yes.
So,
and largely because of Citizens United.
Double speak. That's where I would say that's probably maybe.
And I do think that's going to have to be reviewed. When, how, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
But it seems to me just like the gay marriage one will have to be reviewed. There are some case precedents out there that are adjudicated on shaky grounds at best, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we can get the Chevron deference overturned, you can get Roe v. Wade sent back to the states.
Now we're talking.
And you can get, some of these other things that are being done that are reversing past precedent. I am not beyond considering that there will be quite a few other past precedences that are going to be reconsidered.
And this is what I'm talking about.
Your local ICE agent, end quote, on the wall there of that federal building. At least, you can see it right there, at least 74 people arrested after failing to disperse in St. Paul, Minnesota. Another large crowd. Remember, nearby Minneapolis was a hub for ICE activity earlier this year.
Minnesota was so directly the target of all of the anti-democracy strategies of the Trump administration over the last several months.
Now, Fox News digital reporter Azra Nomani attended the protest in St. Paul. She says she obtained a copy of the permit for the march in St. Paul, and the lead coordinator for the protest was a group Indivisible, a group with ties to networks funded by George Soros. So you see right there. Now, her reporting also found connected to a wealthy American living in China named Neville Roy Singham, connected to some of those protests. Here she is.
They want to call it grassroots. It's 100% AstroTurf. There are well-intentioned people that you walked among who came out, but the command and control was from these 500 groups with, get this, a $3 billion budget.
We reached out to Indivisible, no comment, but No Kings put up a statement. Trump wants to rule over us as a tyrant, but this is America, and the power belongs to the people, not wannabe kings or their billionaire cronies. Again, no comment from Indivisible at this time from this reporting relating to Fox News Digital. Ben?
Yeah, David, thanks very much.
So, again, something has to be done. Something has got to be done about these NGOs. Because they're monetizing our very basic, constitutionally protected, guaranteed right to protest/petition our government. Which, we become the injured party. That's my argument in this. Is that we become the injured party because they're essentially spoiling, they're essentially diluting the impact of genuine protests. It's the same thing with fraudulent votes, which dilutes the power, the impact of any one of your votes out there in the chat. That's going to be my case. It's always been my case. You know, I don't know how this is difficult for people to understand. I don't mean this community. I mean your average everyday American. You know, it's the same thing, and I believe that's the tactic here. Look at ranked choice voting. What does that do? The very impetus of that is to dilute the power, the impact of a single vote. I would argue.
It also, though, dilutes the power of the party. So there's a flip side.
Yeah, so it's all fraudulent. That's again the case that I would make about these paid protests.
I would argue that diluting the power of a corporation isn't so bad.
Oh, Feisty! I love when you do this. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Actually, about that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. How about an NGO? How do we go about diluting the impact of an NGO?
I think you gotta reduce the opacity, right? You gotta.
Could we exist without NGOs?
I think public-private partnerships have a long-standing role and purpose, and I don't have a problem with charitable organizations. I think the problems come in that the regulatory oversight process has been diluted. I think that the issue isn't the NGO so much as it is that if you're not being reviewed properly,
mm-hmm.
it enables some of their intent to come out.
I like that. Yeah, and then we got you got the new DHS head of DHS, Mullen,
Markwayne Mullen.
Markwayne Mullen. He's talking about how the Democrat Party is working with communists,
which we've pointed out a million times, right?
Since day one.
Right?
So, can people like the Markwayne Mullen have something done about this? Not permanently.
Yeah, what's interesting about Markwayne Mullen, I don't know if you recall, but there was a time he ran for president.
Oh, really? Really?
He didn't he got like 1% or whatever, but he got his name out there.
Interesting.
And then he ran for senator and became senator. But he actually fancied himself running for president.
I love his story about Trump and his son or something like that. Mm-hmm. I think it was.
That's when he became fully
on board with Trump. Yeah.
He wasn't before that.
So maybe are we finally starting to see a shift in the narrative here that's going to eventually lead to... I don't think it's a shift in the
narrative. No, because Trump doesn't give a rip if you agree with him.
No,
they're aligned purposes, though.
What I mean is that's going to lead to accountability or major
aligned
change.
Purpose. Yes.
Okay. And
I don't have to agree with you for both of us to be focused on alignment for accountability.
Right. Yeah.
What it would take to make people accountable. We don't have to be in an echo chamber.
Right.
To want that.
I couldn't agree more. And there was one other thing. Oh, yeah. James O'Keefe, too, because he's been making the rounds lately with what he exposed last week. Him, Cam Higbee, Savannah, can't think of her last name, but they've been exposing the fraud, the, petitioning.
Okay, so let me ask a question.
And he's complaining because there's no...
Let me ask a question.
Putting the pressure on DOJ.
When James O'Keefe or even now Nick Shirley come out with their expose videos, what's usually on the heels of that?
That's why I brought it up. That's exactly why I brought it up. Well,
something's happening.
God willing, I hope and pray that's the case. I would say although the previous one that Shirley did, that was actually already...
it was already started by a U.S. attorney.
Yes. Months prior, last summer.
Over a year before.
Yeah.
He was not nominated for that role So he wrote an article saying, I'm afraid this is going to get lost.
Mm-hmm.
And then the new attorney comes in, U.S. attorney comes in. He resigns as he's supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't hear anything until, bam, Nick Shirley on December 28th. In fact, I remember putting it into my chat room going, it looks like we're starting the year with fraud is on the table. And sure enough, boom, on the whole year.
So
we've been dealing with that, but it started with an investigation.
So maybe that's what the point is to curry public favor before a DOJ would move forward with something like this. I mean, that's been my suspicion.
I am seeing a pattern where there are things being inserted into the public discourse that are ripening people for something that comes out.
Right.
Okay, and I've been watching this for a while. We've got fraud. We've got even the issue with pardons, by the way. We've got all the election stuff. It was interesting because Pam Bondi named Albus, U.S. Attorney Albus, out of Missouri, she gave him special designation as a special attorney to oversee fraud, election fraud, anywhere in the country. He's the guy that was overseeing the case in Fulton County that just went before the bench Thursday. Remember the Fulton County supervisors want the boxes back?
Yes.
He's the U.S. attorney overseeing that case.
Oh, my gosh. Okay. Wow. Well, hopefully we see a conclusion to this before too long. But again,
it feels like something.
Something, yeah.
But the hard part is we sit here and we can feel everything kind of, the water's boiling, right?
And
you get a couple bubbles in the water. Now it's like almost a rolling boil. It's like we either expose something or somebody turn off the damn heat because we're about to run out of water in that pot.
That's a good analogy. And then, so here's what Mark Wayne Mullen was just saying about these the Democrat Party aligned with the communist wing.
If you look at their sponsorship of the No Kings Rally, it says CPUSA, which is the Communist Party of the United States of America. Right. And it actually has the same symbol that the old Soviet Union used to have on it. When my team first saw it, they looked at it and they said, is this for real? We researched it, and sure enough, you can see it right there in the bottom left-hand corner where it says CPUSA. You're going, okay, there's a reason why Republicans are calling this an anti-American rally. It is exactly what it is. When you have the Communist Party, that's.
So do you remember in 2022 when Cuomo stepped down as governor of New York? Do you remember what he did on his last day before he left? Who did he pardon?
I don't remember.
Gilbert?
Yes.
From Weather Underground?
Weather Underground, yep.
His son Shay came from California to have a meeting with him, and the very last thing he did was pardon Gilbert. Weather Underground, CPUSA. Now, here's the thing about that. They used to get the Weather Underground was getting their funding from the Russian Communist Party. But when Russia fell, their funding started coming out of China. His name would be Neville Roy Singham.
Oh. Whoa.
Yeah.
Did you know that, Pinata? Wow. Oh, that's interesting.
So all the noise about Neville Roy Singham funding the protests and such like that, this is why. That's the connection.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You can play Mark Wayne Mullen now.
Sponsoring it. You're saying that's pro-America? Come on, give me a break. And you're protesting on the streets that President Trump made safe. You're protesting on the streets that President Trump has made it possible for you to actually walk outside. I mean, you're protesting President Trump, who's secured the border, who's lowered inflation, who's brought down gas prices, who's had morale in the military at the highest it's been. You go through the optimistic outlook for the American people, and they're saying that this is the first time they feel hopeful about it. He's ended.
Well, all right. So this is something that the left's going to capitalize on, and I bet you Pinata could testify to this better than anybody could. The left is going to capitalize, I suspect, on the gas prices, which I think he might. I'm not saying he's wrong, but I don't think now's a good time to be saying, touting gas prices or pricing for that matter. Period. I haven't seen prices go down. Agree or disagree?
No, but we know what it is, though. I mean, that's a different than just general inflation and people just being hurt and just thinking, no, this is, kind of as you mentioned, the boiling pot. I mean, that's kind of what we had with that inflation going through Biden's term. It was just there's just no real reason to point to say why it was things were getting so much expensive as far as just rather than just inflation in general. But it was slow cooked, I think, a little bit. I think it caught me a little bit too. I didn't realize my expenses were getting to where they were.
Yeah,
until pretty late. But I'm pretty fortunate. I got a pretty good job, and so that's where I was. But I definitely feel things now.
Yeah, groceries for me have only kind of gone up, and I'm just being objective. I'm just not an attack, of course, or anything like that. Thank you, Bell South, for the $17 Rumble Rant. Says, no, Mark Wayne Mullen has never run for president of the United States. There's no record of him announcing or running in any presidential primary.
I apologize. I could have swore it was him.
It's okay.
8 wars. He's brought home the hostages in Israel, and yet you still see signs out there that says "Free Palestine." I mean, are you kidding? You can't make this stuff up. What are you exactly protesting other than your hatred towards President Trump?
That's accurate. Holy
and it's
shit.
Absolutely absurd. Well, it even gets crazier than that, Kaylee. If you look at who actually wrote the CR, he wrote it. He wrote this clean CR back in September when he was leader of the Senate, when he was underneath President Biden. This is the same CR we passed last September. This is that.
I mean, my question is, what are their asks? What are they asking? What are they demanding? What are they even protesting in the first place? Is it just a simple? It's all hyperbole. It's all no king, no king, no king. What does that even mean? What are your asks? Anybody know what their demands are? Because I don't.
Well, actually, I think there was a post I saw.
Their demands are to get Trump out of office, right?
That's it.
They're trying to take down. Their only goal is to peel off MAGA to lame duck Trump right now.
Which is what it makes. Which is what the. I'm sorry, but it's what the Doomers. I can't rule that out personally myself. I'm not saying anybody else has to do this.
I don't think it's successful. What would be the one thing that would prevent that from happening?
Whether it's successful or not,
what would be the one thing?
Yeah.
That would prevent it from happening?
Prevent Trump
from Doomers from actually peeling off. Transparency.
Following through with his promises.
Well, he's been following through with his promises. I'm talking about just straight transparency. You got all of these things, that water's boiling at a rolling boil. All of these things are out there, and we're waiting for the boom. Oh, look, is that yours?
Yeah. Say hi, buddy. Say
when
hi.
I didn't know you had a puppy.
He's Chino. He's Chino. You want to say hi? He's very patriotic right now. He's got his
no kidding
stars and stripes on, buddy.
But do you see what I'm talking about? If any of these things start to come out and be exposed, and people can see actual accountability for these hot button items, and I'm not talking the trafficker in San Jose. I'm talking about some major political officials committing crimes.
Yeah. No,
we're starting to see that come out.
You immediately remove the needle. Everyone else is like, "Hey, mea culpa." I may have said some things, and I've been saying a lot of these people they're kind of riding. There's two parts of it. There's a grift aspect of it of trying to ride the sentiment, and there's another part that's like this kind of fence setting of like, well, at least it's not as bad as I thought it was. I was just really worried for this, and it kind of preserves two positions for any outcome, because they can say I told you so, or they can say I'm glad it wasn't as bad as I thought.
Well, we are seeing though some signals that there is public accountability. I mean, ever since Menendez, after 2 tries, Menendez is in prison, right? Gold Bar Bob.
It never comes up on her show, on his daughter's show.
Yeah,
Never
I wonder
comes
why.
up. It never comes up.
Wonder why.
And they must now.
But they just found a representative from Florida guilty of campaign finance.
Yeah, and it's looking like that could possibly explain that stealing the tech there, that guy. That happened in Trump's district, which is that district where that woman, that female Democrat, just won.
The Democrat, right?
Yeah. So it looks like Republicans are going to start asking for a recall.
Right.
Or a recount.
So if those are the signs of that pot boiling or beginning to boil, every time that those signals have come out in the past, something big did happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm thinking is if you got doomers and you keep your finger on the pulse, especially when you got a Flynn out there talking directly to doomers, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got your finger on the pulse enough to be able to inject sanity to prevent a complete breakaway until this stuff comes out. I think maybe it'll work. And people will, they're, to my line of thinking, they're fly by night, but it's still a vote.
All right. Yeah, I can get behind that. So kind of, all right, buddy, you can't be up here. Get down. There was something else I wanted to show you guys. Kind of continuing to push narratives and showing the effort to push narratives.
Yeah.
Pinata, can you read this for everybody?
Sure. A limited series of Jeffrey Epstein A limited series on the Jeffrey Epstein investigation is being shopped at Sony Pictures Television. Laura Dern will star as Miami Herald reporter Julie K. Brown, who put a renewed spotlight on the Epstein crimes. If picked, which seems highly likely, it would be the first scripted series about the Epstein case based on the Brown's book, Perversion of Justice, the Jeffrey Epstein story. The show will follow her relentless years-long investigation that identified 80 victims, persuaded key survivors to go on record, and led Epstein and Maxwell's arrests. Led to that, Sharon Hoffman, Eileen Myers, showrunners, Dern, Adam McKay, Kevin. This is like all this gay lefties. Oh, good Lord.
Yeah, dude.
And here's the thing: this thing is so active right now. They've been propping her up for a little while, and she's starting to change, like her. Because look, you could point to she had a genuine interest. At least, again, I'm always talking in framing and perception and narrative, Feisty. So whenever I talk about this, it's not necessarily my opinion. It is how I feel as though the majority of the public is viewing this. She's the one that cracked the case. She's the one that's doing this, and she was the one that was. But she's always just independent. But in the last 6 months, ever since this really was came to this boom, she has consistently been shown to be extremely prejudiced, extremely biased, not this investigative journalist that she had been initially portrayed out to be. And so now to see this too, to me, that just is the cherry on top of the whole thing of this thing that they just completely tried to prop her up because she has to be this she has to be remember when they made Snowden and Glenn Greenwald, he's the guy, they had to base it off a journalist. That's what the same thing.
Limited hangout. What were you going to ask, Feisty?
I was just going to say they do this, and if it's a Netflix series, it'll be even more absolute, right? Because they do that to absolutely frame narratives for something, and they get people thinking it's one thing, so it's a rug pull when they find out it's something else. And what typically happens? Oh, the government's not telling us the truth.
Or are they trying to prevent the rug pull from its impact? Maybe.
No, but I think they're encouraging the conspiracy to continue. If you come away, people are already doing it with the Epstein files. If you come away with the government's not telling us the truth, we got a Kennedy-style conspiracy that can go on in perpetuity.
Funny, because some of that money coming from these banks that could certainly
absolutely cover it.
That could certainly pay for narratives like this to be purveyed, right? Or propagated. And then there's a couple other things. Feisty.
Intel was manipulated and weaponized.
On this next one here, you want to read this from?
I have to laugh about these.
From Rep Luna.
New evidence from ODNI confirms that many suspected Intel was manipulated and weaponized to justify baseless attacks against Donald Trump in an effort to delegitimize his presidency before it even began. These lies also resulted in destroying our relationships with nuclear superpower Russia. Okay, I got a logical question to ask you.
Okay.
Does it look like our relationship with Russia has been destroyed?
Nope.
So the only victims of this narrative are what? The lemmings here in the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So new evidence from ODNI confirms what we suspected. Newsflash, that evidence has been out for years. So what is that telling you?
That's a good point.
They're getting ready to reintroduce something.
That's a good point. Yeah. You agree with that, Pinata?
Yeah. No, that's a very common narrative seeding tactic. Mm-hmm. They seed it ahead of time, and then when it comes out, it's like, oh, I remember that. I remember hearing about something. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
Now, I could make the case that she's already kind of seeded this narrative for the last couple months.
But most of that was more of the wonky stuff that we would know, not the type of public. I mean,
isn't Trump's approval rating though getting up well into the 50s, almost 60%? The more his approval rating goes up, the more you need to reseed, because stuff they wouldn't have heard before.
I'll have to check.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, fuck it. I'll play this.
Another matter, over the past few days, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has unveiled shocking new evidence that former President Barack Obama and top aides in the Obama administration conspired to subvert President Trump's 2016 election victory and undermine the democratic will of the American people. While publicly pretending to engage in a peaceful transfer of power, in private, former President Obama went to great and nefarious lengths to try to sow discord among the public and sabotage his successor, President Trump. The new evidence released by the Director of National Intelligence, who is here with me today, confirms that the Obama administration manufactured politicized intelligence, which was later used as the justification for baseless smears against President Trump in an effort to try to delegitimize his victory before he even took the oath of office. The truth is that President Trump never had anything to do with Russia, and the Russia collusion hoax was a massive fraud perpetuated on the American people from the very beginning. And the worst part—
Yeah, we know. Just kind of rinse, repeat.
You know what I do like, though?
Yep.
Notice the word admin has been recently inserted after Obama on a very consistent basis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting, I suppose. Yeah.
Used to say Obama all the time. Now they're more and more adding the word admin.
Interesting.
As we reintroduce the Russia collusion hoax. What is it setting you up for? You now are starting to understand that these crimes are bigger than the office of the president. It's starting to reframe it so that people recognize those we want held accountable are the entrenched and fortified.
Entrenched and fortified, yeah. Well,
I've been noticing that now for about a month and a half, 2 months maybe, where they're using the word admin almost exclusively now. It's not couched as just Obama anymore.
What does that say of his rating?
Oh, they approve 100%.
MAGA GOP view of Trump.
Yeah.
100% approve.
Yeah, sometimes you look at the polling data and there are numbers that just jump off the screen at you.
So it says, so people may be dooming, but they're not against Trump.
Thank you.
And this is one of those, because just take a look here. MAGA GOP view of Trump. Approve 100%. 100%.
What did he say?
If you are a member of MAGA and the GOP, you approve of Donald John Trump. 0% say that they disapprove. You don't have to be a mathematical genius to know you can't go higher than 100%. He is the 1972.
Unless you're a Democrat.
What?
You can go higher than 100% if you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
Miami Dolphins. Yeah,
Yeah, shout out to the 72 Dolphins. And then let's see here. This last one. How's GOP? So this I want to get you guys' opinion on. Both of you guys. House GOP knows trouble is brewing. A record high 36 House GOP retirements are set to hit this upcoming election. Why are they leaving? Just 40% approve of Trump? When president approval is under 50% in midterms, president party average loss is 34 seats. The smallest loss, 9 seats. Dems get a majority with a pickup of 3. What?
I would say that House Republicans are running for the exits faster than kids do on the final day of school.
The why, I think, is what's crucial here.
Just take a look here. Oh, hello. Most House retirements since 1930. So far this cycle, already 36. That is the grand record over the last nearly 100 years. My goodness gracious. That actually beats the former record in total, which was 34 back in the 2018 cycle. And that wasn't that long ago. And I do recall that was a very, very good year for House Democrats. The bottom line is this. You don't run for the exits unless you know trouble is brewing. And House Republicans so far believe trouble is absolutely brewing.
Okay, how do you know that? What does history tell us about these types of exits?
Okay, so I say it's
there
brewing.
Some people running for the exits there because they were implicated in that.
Yes.
The sex scandals, and they didn't want to.
Not only that, did you catch the word retirements?
Yeah.
Yep. And
we don't normally retire, right?
Maybe this is the reason for it.
This is a Fox News alert. Saturday in America continuing to track fraud allegations all across the country. We've seen it in Maine. We brought you some questions about.
What did he say?
Yeah.
Some funding that allegedly was misused in Maine. Those were private donations. Then California. And now, here's the next state, Massachusetts. Now, the state's auditor just released a report revealing massive fraud within programs like Mass Health, the Department of Transitional Assistance, and the Department of Early Education and Care. These are all programs that provide social services to the Massachusetts community. And as you can see, there was over $4 million in fraud uncovered in the state's SNAP program alone. Another $1.3 million connected to the state's Mass Health program, and hundreds of thousands of dollars found in other state programs. We're also learning of 22 civil recoveries that reclaimed nearly $800,000 in fraudulent overpayments. Now, the total amount of fraud in fiscal year 2025 alone was nearly $12 million. That's in 1 year. That's your money. Now, as all this fraud is being exposed, President Trump is reportedly planning to sign an executive order establishing a new fraud task force. Signaling its importance, it will be led by Vice President J.D. Vance.
Well, could that be an explanation as to why? Maybe Trump is putting the pressure on people to back out?
The other thing that came out, too, is they're proving that money that was earmarked for Ukraine came back to Dem pockets. So, and they always point out Dem pockets. They say the Democrat Party. But when you're dealing with a uniparty, I don't think the color matters. I think it's a fact that there are people that benefited from the war in Ukraine because it directly came back to finance their campaigns. That's the first part. Second part, resignations matter, right? The word resignation stands out. That implies something that is not customary in Congress. People don't resign. They've been dying in office. So resignations are saying or inferring people are being told to go. That which we had precognition of that, if you recall. And then finally, we had 34 seats up in 2018. We lost the House, but we gained in the Senate, which was important. They knew they were going to lose the House.
Oh, yeah, we knew that too. We actually that was forecasted to us.
Right. The Senate was more important.
Could that be happening?
Well, the Senate is the more important for the Senate Judiciary Committee is the most powerful committee in the country. So, I mean, I do think that matters.
Maybe something
do
to
we
anticipate.
lose? I don't know that we lose. Like I said, if anything is disclosed that we can quantifiably and qualitatively point to a public official being held accountable, I think that changes the doomer perspective in the MAGA erosion. But other than that, hey, that's my thoughts. Go ahead, Pinata. I know the Dem side, they're going, yeah, baby. We're gonna get it all back.
As long as you keep the Senate, I think I'll be okay. I mean, I pretty much expect it's hard to maintain the House just historically, but then again, it's we know a lot of this is stuff that we used to say, oh, well, that's just the way it goes, when really it was being manipulated. So it's hard to say.
All right.
At some point, though, that's got to change, don't you think? And I think if Trump,
you think so,
can be attributed with, actually cleaning out the swamp with some key disclosures, I think we can shift that narrative.
It would be about time. Yeah, I feel like it would boil down to timing,
right?
Which he's got plenty of time.
It's got till June.
At least, yeah. I don't know. I don't want to. I don't do that to be a doomer. I want us to all be prepared for any case scenario.
It'd be foolish to have the rose-colored glasses on and not consider the fact we could lose the House again.
I mean, I'm comfy either way. Me personally, I'm comfy either way. Because I do think Trump could get a lot done. Not with losing both of them. I don't know.
Well, the only thing that I got to point to is in the first term with a decidedly anti-Trump Congress. He got an awful lot done then. And I also find it interesting.
That's what I mean.
That in a decidedly anti-Trump Senate, he got both Mark Wayne Mullen confirmed and Connell.
But he can't get any judges confirmed.
But he can't get a judge on the bench. He got the 2 anti-fraud people confirmed, but nobody else.
And then previously, I mean, how many judges did Biden get? A shit ton. He got a whole lot of judges, and I think we had the House at that time. I think we had. So the GOP was allowing Biden judges to be.
I mean, one of his biggest gripes too is also the blue slip stuff, appointments.
Yes.
This is also where a lot of us trying to combat their lawfare with legitimate cases is having an issue, which is why the Comey and Letitia James cases with the Halligan stuff just kind of didn't work as well.
Well,
maybe this is what they're citing is for the reasoning, but who knows if that's the real reason.
Well, I just realized what time it is. Pinata, thank you for joining us, as always. You got anything coming up?
Yeah, I'm working on it. I just got a big work bomb drawn on me today, so it's going to be pretty busy. So if Wednesday's out of in question, this would be a good week for both of us. I think to we can abstain. So
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be. I'm gonna know a little bit more by the morning. But for right now, yeah, I'm like we'll have to see.
Okay.
Typically on Mondays and Fridays 2 p.m. Eastern, and the rest of the days on the weekday it's 3 p.m. Eastern, but 5 p.m. Eastern on the weekends. But at the moment, it's hard to think about that. I got a bunch of work stuff that dropped off today, so
we got Marissa dropping your links
by tomorrow.
And thank you, Marissa, for dropping Pinata's links out there.
Thank you, Marissa.
And thank you for joining us as always, Pinata. Feisty, I see you're going live more often now.
No, I'm not.
I see Feisty, Friends Feisty going live an awful lot.
My husband does because we're now unpilled.
Yep.
And you're seeing my husband does the rosary 3 times a day.
Which is a very selfless thing. I love that he does that.
Yeah.
That's
his. So that's what you're seeing. Me going live, no. Although we're trying to work out a way that I can do that.
Well, thank you for doing this as always. Final thought: if you had a message for everyone out there, something to take away from today's show, what would that message be, Feisty?
I think the period we're in right now is intended to be confusing. I don't mean coordinated. I think it's a natural
fog of war.
Of a war, right?
Yeah.
The closer we get to the end, the more convoluted things look or feel. But also remember that who our enemy is and what we're fighting for. The screams are a natural outcropping of that as well. So we must be winning when the screams are so decidedly anti-Trump and he's illegal, he's breaking the law.
Yeah.
I mean, all of this noise is so over the top.
He's owned.
Right.
Miriam Adelson, BB.
I actually think the Iran story is, it's not much longer.
He actually posted about it. Matter of fact, 10 hours ago, everybody, he just posted about it. Says the United States of America is in serious discussions with a new and more reasonable regime to end our military operation in Iran. This was 10 hours ago. I'm sorry. Yeah. This was 7:30 this morning. Great progress has been made, but if for any reason a deal is not shortly reached, which it probably will be, and if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately open for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants.
You do realize that's the closing salvo to what we opened with.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what he's talking about with we negotiate or blow it up, it is putting NATO is on a threadbare, right? Because NATO now is showing signs of fracturing because of what Spain just did. The fact that product oil, the energy, which is 70% of the global economy or more, if you can't move oil, then you really disrupt everything else on the economy. And we're seeing stress on the shadow banking system as a result because petrodollars can't be converted to bonds. So that's putting stress on the global liquidity system, which is where we want to be. We want that crisis that forces that moment of movement.
Yep. And bringing it and getting everything, acquiring everything. Gulf of America. This, what did he call it? The Strait of Trump or the Strait of Trump. Yes.
Yes. It was really cool. But the fact that he's working with somebody, we don't know who that leadership is.
I have no idea. And he keeps hinting.
But it was interesting because they were forced to admit the other day, the IRGC, it was put out as the IRGC, was forced to admit, our naval commander was killed. They were trying to deny it, but they've now officially confirmed. Which means that there's no Navy.
No what?
There's no Navy.
Yeah. He even just considered or offered consideration for, quote, completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Carg Island. He even said, and possibly all the desalinization plants, which we have purposefully not yet, quote, touched.
He has no intentions of hitting the infrastructure. You
but
realize
he's
that,
put,
right?
and I know that, and I suspect everybody here knows that. But I think what matters is that he's just putting it out there that he's willing to do it, and probably shouldn't question
you see,
him.
that's just it. If he's talking with a new Iranian leadership, these talking points he's putting out isn't for them. It's
City of London.
for Europe.
Yeah.
It's City of London. Also, he's letting them know, stay the hell out of it, right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Pinata, I didn't hear you.
Well, the word on the street is, and the social media is like, Trump is just doing everything what Israel wants him to do, and there's been talk that they're ones doing these strikes. He says he doesn't want to do these strikes. So it also puts distance between what his agenda is versus their agenda.
Oh, that's a great point.
That's a good point.
That's a great point. Yes. Oh, gosh. That as well as the Karg Island, because Israel has what interest would Israel have with Karg Island? People allege that Israel's only interest is just to bomb the shit out of them. Just keep bombing the shit out of them, right? With no interest of obtaining anything in return. And the Karg Island thing is the oil. That's the interest there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, it's not even just the oil because there's no drilling there. The oil comes to Karg Island and is loaded on tankers.
That's right.
It's a major distribution port.
Then I just learned the other day that there's a big well or, some other oil refinery off the coast of California that's got over 600 million barrels of oil that's just been sitting there going nowhere. Like it's being restrained for some reason. I don't know. I think it was Murray Bartiromo I heard that from the other day, but anyways, anywhoosie, thank you, Feisty. Thank you, Pinata. Thank you, everybody out there in the chat for kicking it with us. Finally, shout out to, I guess, a couple thank yous. Where did we end off? Yeah, I saw a Rambo sighting out there. Shout out to S. Jones, Just Fed Up, Beth Harris, Dylan 1954, Just Fed Up again, Mitchell DM with a can. Thank you, Mitch. Thank you, Joe Rambo with a can. Says, sup, you big gays. Good to see Rambo out there. Pigs on a Wing donated 1,000 gold pills. Love you guys. Love you right back. Thank you so much. Jude the Lady Pug, thank you for the cookie. And then Scratching was released for those of you lurkers out there listening. Go get your gold pills. Mitchell DM. Holy shit from Mitchell DM. Gosh. Thank you so much, Mitch. And thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you for everybody over on Rumble for your support. I think, Bell South, thank you for the 17. As well as Spin City News. I almost forgot Spin City rated us earlier. Shout out to Spin City. Non-Persona is now became a monthly supporter and subscribed to yours truly. So God bless you, Non-Persona. I appreciate you. I'll be live tonight, guys, for the news at 9:30 p.m. I hope to see you all there. Feisty, thank you again. Pinata, thank you guys. Thank you both.
Have a great day, everybody.
Awesome.
Thanks. See you guys.
All right, guys. God bless. Stay safe. Stay dangerous, Patriots. I'll see y'all tonight.
Bye.
Peace out.